Well, author Larry Center is with us, and we're going to talk about his book, Like No Other Boy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great. Now, your book, of course, Like No Other Boy, is a very interesting story because it's about an 8-year-old autistic boy who can't speak to humans, but he does have an ability to communicate with chimpanzees. So, without giving too much away, just take it from there.
I just got the idea. I was watching a primatologist talk on, he was being interviewed and he was talking about possibly using chimps for therapy with autistic children. And a light bulb went off and I just decided to try to write that as a fiction, that a autistic boy it's kind of like a savant and he can somehow communicate with chimps and kind of read their body languages and instinctually know things that the rest of us don't quite know. And so in the book, he's very inward. He doesn't speak to humans, but the chimps bring him out. And the father sees this, and the father's really devoted to the boy. And he tries to get the boy into chimp therapy with some chimps at a primatology center. But the mother is against this because she doesn't want her son to become like a monkey boy, who's just imitating chimps, and that she wants the boy to be humanized, not, she thinks it's not good. So they have a battle of that. And ultimately, the story progresses. And I guess you have to read the book to see who comes out on top. But that's the idea of it anyway.
Is it explained in the book why he's able to talk to chimpanzees but not humans?
It is explained. Number one, he has a grandfather who actually was a horse whisperer. Ooh. So the animal to human communication is kind of a genetic in the family. And the other aspect is the scientists study his brain and they see that it has certain intuitive neuronal connections that kind of inspire his autism, but it also contributes to his ability to communicate with chimps. It's kind of just an unusual aberration in his brain and they study his brain from an MRI standpoint, and they see that going on as he's communicating to the chimps. So.
Yeah. And why did you choose chimpanzees as the animal that he could talk to?
It just seemed the most human-like, and I've also considered, other animals for other books, but I don't want to tell the same story over and over again. But chimpanzees just seem like the perfect foil for this concept.
They are quite human-like, aren't they? Because I think there's a thing where we share 50% of our DNA with chimpanzees.
It's actually a lot more than that. I believe it's like 98% that we share, so we're very close. And I bring out in the book that when Tommy hugs a chimp and he stares into the chimp's eyes, and it's kind of like staring into your ancestors from long ago. It's kind of like going back in time.
98%, that makes sense actually, because I knew that we shared DNA with bananas and chimpanzees, and one of them was 98% and one of them was 50%, but I couldn't remember which way round. But it makes more sense that we're closer to chimpanzees than bananas, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Although they are appealing.
Yeah, I see what you did there. And how long did it take you to write the book?
It took me about 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of rewrites, but it was really the best thing I've ever done, the most funnest thing I've ever done in terms of creativity. It's just, you get lost in the world of this family, and it's just something I really enjoy doing. So, it was fun. And then it got I published it, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback from the reviews, so it's kind of nice to see.
Yeah, on Amazon alone, you've got hundreds of reviews already, which is actually, when I've been interviewing people, it's quite rare that somebody's got that many reviews. It's usually in the tens if they're lucky.
Yeah. And it's all, I think the average is now about 4.7. So it's almost 5 stars. It's very, I've had a few negatives, but mostly people really love it. And so it's very gratifying to see that.
So have you written any books before this, or was this your first kind of delve into writing?
That was my first book. I had, dabbled in a couple other concepts, but they never really turned out into anything, a full book. But this was my first full book. So,
Yeah.
and I'm really I'm writing other things now and, just trying to search for another good idea. So I'm thinking of using my next book. I'm thinking of using a dog relationship with a policeman, like a police dog, and they have a great relationship, and the dog rescues the policeman, something like that.
Yeah. Well, you've always been fascinated by the relationship between humans and animals, haven't you? So let's say years down the line, and you've written many books, do you think that's what most of them would be about?
I'm kind of thinking that's kind of part of most of them. I mean, I may venture off into something. I usually like to include animals in there somehow because number one, they're interesting for a lot of people. We all love animals, and it makes a great, I was also there a long time ago. There was a circus movie called Toby Tyler, and I was just a child, and it seemed to resonate with me because there was a chimpanzee in that movie, and for some reason, I'm thinking that kind of hit my subconscious, and it kind of emerged, like 40 years later, whatever.
What would be the weirdest animal that you could write about? Have you thought about that?
I mean, animals are they're amazing. But I don't know, that porpoises are really smart, they say. And parakeets have a certain amount of language that, they brought out. They're studying that, their language. And, but if you look on YouTube, you see all these kind of relationships between one breed of animal and another, like goats and, snakes or whatever. I mean, they just seem to have some kind of animals are, to me, the more you think about it, we love our pets and really, like, I know a lot of people eat meat, but when you think about it, should we be eating meat? Because they have feelings, the more you dig into it, the more you see that animals really do have a level of feelings that we try to deny, at the dinner table. But when you think about it, they're very interesting if you go into their mindsets. There's a lady named Temple Grandin who is a autistic woman who developed. She has an actual relationship with cattle where she can intuit what cattle are thinking about it. She's written books about it, and she's developed. When cattle go into the slaughterhouse, they're all nervous and everything, and she developed a way so that the cattle would go in smoothly and they wouldn't be so upset. They go in more in an ordered way. And so because of her autistic brain power, if you want to call it that, she is able to determine, the way cows would interact better. And so she's helped them in that sense. So there's a relationship, horse whisperers, and a lot of people have intuitive feelings about their pets, and it's just something to explore,
Yeah, I guess it comes down to the fact that even just with humans, most of our communication isn't really through talking, is it?
We talk, and I think what you'd call it is tacit communication. There's an underlying behavioral, intuitive part of conversation or language. That I have a degree in philosophy and actually studied, the power of ineffability, which, like, what does it mean in silence? What is the language of silence? Or what do we say when we're just not saying anything? What does that mean? And I think sensitive people have more ability to read, the way we feel more so than what we say, kind of thing.
I suppose some people are just rubbish at picking up signs, aren't they? So do you think those people would also be less good at communicating with animals in that way?
I'm not sure. Animals seem to bring out a lot of people. Like, you take some in the book, actually, the grandfather is this really stern, hard-hearted person that you would think wouldn't be very amenable to animals, but it turns out that he's very open. Animals have a way of opening up even the hardest of hearts sometimes. Yeah. So I wouldn't underestimate them.
Yeah. And of course, this was your first book. You've dabbled into a few ideas before, but this is the first one to be properly done. And how did you find the experience? Because although it took you 10 years to write, was it quite enjoyable?
It was. I learned a lot about, first I had to learn, how to write fiction, which took me about 2 or 3 years. And then I'd get edits from people who would tell me this is wrong, change this. And my wife would read things and, tell me you should change these, this doesn't make sense, et cetera. And you just slowly build it up to where it becomes more orderly, and you build to the climax and the ending, and you it's just, for me, it's fun. I love the concept. I know it's not for everybody, but I don't know. I just have an imagination that seems to work for this kind of project.
You've mentioned about some other ideas you've got. Is there anything that's confirmed coming up?
No, I'm still just dabbling in ideas, but I kind of like the idea of the dog who rescues the policeman, that kind of thing, like something like that, and he protects the policeman when he's retired. They have a relationship, and it something like that. But I don't really have too many. I'm just kind of looking around for new ideas, and so.
Yeah. Would a sequel to Like No Other Boy be possible or a good idea?
I'm not sure, because to me that book was it's really like a little gem, and I don't want to, it's a unique book. Everybody says who reads it, it's like a unique, one-of-a-kind story that makes you cry, makes you laugh, and I'm not sure I want to add anything to it. It's kind of like, it just feels like perfect as it is. So in that sense, but it would be kind of interesting to do a sequel to what happens to Tommy as he grows up, and the father and the mother, and the grandfather. So it's kind of, I know it would be a possibility, but I'm kind of hesitant.
I suppose there's no point in doing it until you think you've got a really good idea about where the story can go, because you don't want to do a sequel just for the sake of doing a sequel.
Right. And the thing that really inspired me for this, when I heard the idea of what if an autistic boy can communicate with chimpanzees, it was just, to me, that was such an inspirational idea. I mean, I know other people might go, okay, cool, no big deal. But for me, it was really exciting. So it led me on for years and years to keep writing it. Whereas I'm looking for that same, what really makes the idea exciting is if you can come up with a great climax, like, the dog saves the policeman. He's in a coma or something, and the dog saves the policeman somehow, and the exciting climax. So that's what I'm looking for,
And what about some of the reviews left as well? Are they saying that they'd like a sequel or wanting to know what happens next, or do they just like it as it is?
It seems like they like it as it is, but some of them are saying, I can't wait to read the next book from the author, so that kind of thing. But I'm not getting any requests for sequels. It doesn't feel like, usually sequels are kind of like, family sagas, or people who have a relationship and they, and as a teenagers, and then they go into college and older, just kind of more of a maturation type thing.
Well, in the meantime, where are all the places that we're able to find your book, Like No Other Boy?
Best place is just Amazon. If you go on there and enter Like No Other Boy, it comes up really nicely.
Yeah.
And then there's Goodreads and Barnes and Noble, and several different other places. I'm not quite sure all the names of them, really. So, but I would just try Amazon, and I hope anybody listening out there would want to at least, you could open up a few pages on the Kindle Amazon and just, start reading and see if it's something you might like.
Yeah. Well, many thanks for coming on today. It's been great to chat to you.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me.